Ebb and flow are mainly two phases of tide or any similar movement of water. Due to the sun's and moon's direct attraction, the inflation of sea water in a definite time interval is known as high tide or flow, and disembarking of the same is known as low tide or ebb. Duration: both ebb and tide occurs twice a day successively at an interval of 6 hours and 13 minutes. There are many reasons for the occurrence of ebb and flow. Basically, two forces are mainly acting. These are gravitational force and centrifugal force. In case of gravitational force, we all know that the attraction between Earth and any particle in the universe is known as gravitational force. Here, the Earth is being attracted both by the moon and the sun from both sides. But the attraction of moon is more than that of the sun by two folds, because moon is the satellite of the earth, and obviously being a satellite of the earth, it is much more closer to our planet than that of the sun. So the gravitational force mainly exists between the earth and the moon, which is mainly causing ebb and flow in our areas. Similarly, in case of centrifugal force, we know that the earth is continuously revolving round within its own axis rapidly. In that case, the liquid water existing in the earth's surface has the tendency to get scattered. The force which is responsible behind the ebb and flow after gravitational force is nothing but the centrifugal force. Centrifugal force can also be called as the outward force because the force is exerted from outside due to inertia. Mainly, ebb and flow can be divided into four categories. First one is major tide, secondly minor tide, then flood tide or spring tide, finally neap or ebb tide. In case of major and minor tide, as we know that the moon has more influence on the ebb and flow in our earth, so the attraction of moon is mainly responsible for occurring major tide. The area where the moon where it is facing towards the moon's influence will be more in this area because it is facing towards the moon and the influence is directly on this part. So in this part major tide will occur because it's facing towards the moon, as I've earlier told. Then in this side minor tide will occur because it is not facing towards the moon, or there is no influence of the moon, we can say. It may be, but the influence of moon is more in this region. Here mainly minor tide is occurring due to the centrifugal force of earth, due to the attraction of centrifugal force of earth. So the place where major tide is occurring exactly in the opposite side, due to the attraction of centrifugal force, the minor tide takes place. Because of the occurrence of major and minor tide on both sides, the water deficiency is being noticed at the center of the earth, which is known as ebb. Thirdly, we can divide flood tide into two phases. Firstly, in case of new moon, and second during full moon. So let's talk about the new moon. In case of during new moon, both the sun and the moon stays at the same side of the earth and creates equal attraction, causing a tide known as flood tide. Similarly, on the other hand, during full moon, sun and the moon stays at the opposite side. That means sun on one side and moon on another side. Then a tide is originated in this region, which is known as flood tide or spring tide during full moon. As both the sun and the moon stays at prime vertical circle during the 2 lunar days, the tide that is originated due to the strong attraction is known as flood tide. Lastly, during neap tide, both the sun and the earth is being positioned, creating a 90-degree with the earth. Both the sun and the moon is being positioned, creating 90-degree with the earth. That means on 8th and 7th lunar days, the sun and the moon stays at a right angle. Then the tide that is originated due to the attraction of the moon is known as neap tide. One thing we need to remember is that the neap tide occurs twice a month, but the velocity of the tide is not as strong as the previous tide, which was spring tide, because the velocity of the tide doesn't get any seriousness due to the direct attraction of the sun. Finally, the influence of ebb and tide in the daily lives of the people is immense. Due to the occurrence of ebb and flow almost every day, the sweepings inside the rivers get cleansed, utilizing the water of tide in many areas. Especially in the northern areas, the tide water is being confined beside water bodies for future irrigation purpose. Then finally, in different developed countries like in France and India, the hydroelectricity project is being regulated by utilizing the ebb and flow.